The world comes into focus slowly, like a landscape emerging from a dense morning fog. There is no sudden jolt, no jarring alarm clock from a future you cannot possibly comprehend. There is only a gradual lightening of the darkness, a subtle shift in the quality of the air you breathe. First, you become aware of the scent. It's a thick, heavy perfume of existence, a complex blend of old wood smoke, damp earth, sleeping bodies, and the faint, almost sweet smell of livestock. It's the smell of home, the smell of the longhouse, the smell of your entire world contained under a single, great, curving roof of turf and timber. You feel the rough texture of a woolen blanket against your cheek, its fibers woven with the diligence of your mother and the lanolin of the sheep that graze on the impossibly green slopes of the fjord. The air is cold, carrying a deep chill that seems to emanate from the very bones of the earth. It's cold that the long central fire pit, now just a bed of glowing orange embers, has fought against all night and has, for the most part, lost. You can hear the slow, rhythmic breathing of your family all around you, a soft chorus of sighs and murmurs that fills the vast, shadowy space. This is life. This is the heart of your world, this smoky, crowded, living building. You'll drift in this state for a while, suspended between the nothingness of sleep and the gentle, insistent pull of the day. There is no rush. There is nowhere to be, not yet. So just breathe. Let the sounds and smells wash over you. Let the cold air sharpen your senses. You probably won't make it through this day, and that's perfectly all right. The journey is the thing. Before we go any further, if this is the sort of journey you enjoy, please take a quiet moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It lets us know you're out there listening in the dark. Hey, we'd love to know where you are and what time it is for you. Leave a comment below with your city and the hour, and we'll imagine all the different corners of the world where we are all together, settling in for a story. It's a nice thought, isn't it? Now let's ease into tonight's journey. You pull the wool closer to your chin, a small act of defiance against the morning. Your sleeping platform is a simple, wooden bench built into the wall of the longhouse, shared with two of your younger siblings who are currently curled into tight, unmoving balls of warmth. A few feet away, another family sleeps, and beyond them, another. This great hall, the Langus, is not just a house. It is the entire social universe. It is a testament to the fact that privacy is a concept that won't be invented for another 1,000 years. And right now, you'd trade your best knife for just 5 minutes of it. The architecture is deceptively simple and profoundly effective. 2 long rows of thick wooden posts march down the center of the building, holding up a massive roof that slopes low to the ground. The walls are made of wattle and daub, or sometimes turf stacked high, insulating this pocket of life against the harsh Scandinavian winds. You've lived your whole life within these walls, and you know they're every grown inside. This building is as alive as you are. It breathes. The smoke from the central hearth drifts lazily upwards, searching for the hole in the roof that serves as a chimney, blanketing everything and everyone in a hazy, perpetual twilight. This is the major historical fact of your existence. The Longhouse is the nucleus of Viking society, a microcosm of the entire world, containing family, servants, warriors, and sometimes even a few prized animals, all huddled together for warmth and security. It is a symbol of community, of strength in numbers, and as you feel your brother's foot jab you in the ribs, it is also a symbol of having absolutely no personal space. Someone coughs. It's a deep, rattling sound from the far end of the hall, where the chieftain, your father's cousin, sleeps with his immediate family. That is the seat of power, slightly elevated, slightly warmer, a constant, spoken reminder of the hierarchy that governs this small world. Historians still debate the exact social hierarchy within a longhouse, whether it was a rigid structure or something more fluid, shifting with the seasons and the fortunes of the chieftain. From your vantage point, it feels pretty fixed. You are the second son of a free farmer who holds land from the chieftain. Your path is more or less laid out before you like the worn-out tannins on a piece of leather. You will work the land. You will help your older brother. You will marry a girl from a neighboring farm to strengthen an alliance, and you will raise your own children in this very long house, or one just like it. It's a good life, a secure life, deeply, profoundly, soul-crushingly predictable life. The thought doesn't come with anger or even resentment. It comes with a quiet, hollow sort of ache, a feeling as vast and as empty as the gray sky you can just glimpse through the smoke hole. Slowly, deliberately, you swing your legs over the side of the bench. The floorboards are impossibly cold against the soles of your feet, a shock that travels up your spine and finally banishes the last vestiges of sleep. You reach for your tunic, a simple linen garment, and pull it over your head. The fabric is coarse, but familiar. You dress in layers, as everyone does. The tunic, then a woolen overtunic, and simple leather trousers tied at the waist with a cord. It's a functional outfit designed for work and warmth, not for style. You run a hand through your own tangled hair. Across the way, you see your uncle, a man whose face is a roadmap of old battles and older stories, already awake. He sits on a stool near the embers, not tending them, just staring into them. In his hands, he holds a strange, milky-looking crystal, turning it over and over. It's Solarstein, a sunstone, an obscure little piece of magic that holds the key to the world. You've seen him use it on overcast days, holding it up to the sky, turning it until a faint line of light appears within the crystal, pointing to the sun's hidden position. It's how their ships find their way across the endless, featureless sea. It's a navigator's secret, a weird cultural tidbit that separates the farmers from the explorers. He never speaks of it, but its presence is a constant, silent promise of a world beyond this fjord, a world that exists over the horizon, a world that doesn't smell of damp wool and manure. He catches you looking and gives a slow, almost imperceptible nod before his gaze returns to the glowing heart of the fire. You move through the waking house, your steps soft on the packed earth floor. The air is thick with the sounds of a slow start, a baby fussing, a man clearing his throat, the soft clink of a clay pot as your mother begins to prepare the morning meal. You splash some frigid water on your face from a wooden bucket near the door. It's the Viking version of a spa day, and it is, to be frank, deeply overrated. The water is so cold it makes your teeth ache, but it does its job. You feel awake now? Alert. You step outside the heavy wooden door, and the world expands. The air here is different. It's clean, sharp, and tastes of salt and pine. The longhouse sits on a patch of flat land carved from the side of a mountain, overlooking the dark, still waters of the fjord. The mountains on the other side are giants, their peaks shrouded in mist, their slopes a dark tapestry of rock and forest. The sky is a pale, luminous gray, the color of a pearl. A lone bird calls out, its cry echoing in the immense silence. This is the great paradox of your life, the cramped, smoky confines of the longhouse, and the breathtaking, infinite space of the world just outside its door. You stand there for a moment, caught between the two, the warmth and security behind you, and the vast, cold, terrifying, beautiful emptiness before you. Breakfast is a familiar affair, a warm, lumpy porridge of oats and barley, boiled with water and perhaps a splash of milk if the cows are feeling generous. It's served in a simple wooden bowl that you carved yourself, and you eat it with a spoon of polished bone. It has all the nutritional value you need and absolutely none of the excitement. You sit on a bench, shoulder to shoulder with your kin. The steam from your bowl warming your face. The talk is muted, practical. The weather, a sick away, a fence that needs mending. The mundane, essential business of survival. Your older brother, Eric, is already talking about which fields need plowing. He is strong, reliable, and perfectly content. He looks at the land and sees his future. You look at the land and see the edge of the water. You see the reflection of the sky. You see a path leading away. You finish your porridge, the lumpy texture, a familiar drag in your throat. You listen to the plans being made, the duties being assigned. You will spend the day mending nets down by the shore. It is important work. It is necessary work. It is the same work you did last week and the week before that. As you stand to leave, your gaze falls again on your uncle, who has now tucked the sunstone away in a small leather pouch at his belt. He is looking at you, a strange, knowing glint in his pale blue eyes. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't have to. The question hangs in the air between you, as silent and as powerful as the mountains, as clear as the light in his strange crystal. Is this really enough? In the answer, a quiet, dangerous whisper in the back of your mind is beginning to take shape. You leave the long house behind, the heavy wooden door thudding shut with a sound of finality that feels, for a moment, a little too literal. The path to the shore is not a grand road, but a simple track worn into the earth by generations of feet, a winding scar of dark soil through the vibrant green grass. Your leather shoes, softened with mink oil to keep out the damp, make soft, rhythmic thuds on the packed dirt. The air is alive with the hum of unseen things. Bees drift lazily between patches of purple thistle. They drone a low, sleepy note in the immense symphony of the fjord. The path is flanked by stones, cleared from the precious farmable land and piled up over centuries. They are covered in a fine green velvet of moss, cool and damp to the touch. You trail your fingers over one as you walk, feeling the grit and the soft fuzz, connecting for a moment with the labor of your ancestors who placed it there. The world feels intensely physical, immediate. You are not just walking through a landscape. You are a part of it, your breath mingling with the mist that clings to the base of the mountains, your warmth a tiny, significant spark against the monumental cold of the rock and water. Remember the smoky, crowded world you just left from? Here is just a single thread of gray against a mountainside, a tiny anchor in a vast world, a visual reminder of the smallness of your known universe. The path steepens, and the sound of the world changes. The gentle hum of the meadow gives way to the cry of gulls and the subtle, persistent whisper of water lapping against stone. The smell of salt grows stronger, cutting through the clean scent of pine and damp earth. You round a final bend, passing a stand of wind-beaten birch trees whose white bark peels like old parchment. And then the whole vista of the shoreline opens up before you, and you see them, the ships. They are not in the water, but pulled up onto the stony beach, resting on wooden rollers. Their proud, high prows pointing towards the fjord as if in sleep, dreaming of the waves. There are smaller fishing boats, the frings and carves, practical, sturdy vessels for plying the local waters. But your eyes are drawn to the great one, the Drakkar, the dragon ship that sits apart from the others. It is the chieftain's pride, a vessel of war and of travel, a masterpiece of wood and will. Its long, elegant lines are breathtaking, a perfect union of grace and power. It seems almost alive, a great sea serpent resting on the shore. Its hull is built in the clinker style, where the long oak planks overlap, each one fastened to the one below with iron rivets. This is the great technological secret of your people, the major historical fact that allows you to be masters of the sea, this overlapping construction. The lapstrick hull creates a ship that is both incredibly strong and remarkably flexible. It can withstand the crushing power of the open ocean waves, bending with them rather than breaking. And its shallow draft means it can navigate far up shallow rivers, deep into the lands of others. It is a key, a weapon, and a promise, all carved from oak and sealed with tar. You find the pile of nets near a crude wooden shelter where tools are kept. A few older men are already there, their hands moving with the slow, practiced economy of long experience. They greet you with a nod and a grunt, their faces weathered into permanent squints from a lifetime of staring at the sun and the sea. You work alongside them, here main topics of conversation being the questionable quality of last year's ale and a comprehensive, almost poetic history of their various joint pains. It's riveting stuff. You pick up a wooden needle, called a knell, and a coil of hempen twine. Q. Find a section of the vast net that is torn, a gaping hole in its intricate diamond pattern, and you sit on an overturned log to begin your work. Mending nets is a special kind of meditative torture, a task so boring it allows your mind to wander to absolutely anywhere else. Your hands begin the familiar dance. Pass the needle through a loop, pull the twine taut, make a knot, pass it through the next loop, over and over. It is a microcosm of your life, finding the broken parts and methodically, predictably, tying them back together. Your mind, untethered by the repetitive motion, begins to drift. You start to think in the old ways, the poetic ways. The sea before you is the Ronard the Whale Road. A battle is a sphere aglima, a sword game. This habit of using kennings, these compound metaphors, is a deep-seated part of your culture, an obscure little tidbit that turns the mundane world into an epic. The net in your hands becomes a herring sorrow, the needle a thread snake, weaving a new fate for the fish. Your gaze keeps drifting back to the long ship. You see the intricate carvings on its prow, a fearsome dragon's head with bared teeth and swirling, knotwork scales. It's designed to strike fear into the hearts of your enemies, but to you, it looks like a symbol of freedom. You imagine the ship launching, sliding down the greased rollers and into the cold, dark water. Whether a new longship was blessed with a formal blood sacrifice, as some of the more dramatic sagas suggest, or simply with a swig of good ale and a quiet prayer to Nijar, the god of seamen and wealth, is a detailed loss to the salt spray of time. But you can imagine a cheer that would go up. It's a sense of collective pride and potential as the ship finally meets its element. The men around you continue their work, their conversation a low, continuous murmur. They are good men. They are the backbone of your community, and you realize with a sudden, chilling clarity that if you stay, this will be your future, an expert in net mending and a connoisseur of complaints. It's a career path with surprisingly limited opportunities for advancement. The work is slow. The sun, a pale disk in the gray sky, climbs higher. Your fingers grow stiff from the repetitive motion, the rough twine rubbing your skin raw. Each knot you tie feels like another thread binding you to this shore, to this life. You look at the hole in the net. It is a void, a nothingness. Your job is to close it, to make it whole, to restore the pattern. But your mind rebels. What if the void is the interesting part? What if the hole is the point? The hole is a way through, okay? Ship is just a tool for navigating a much larger void, the vast, empty space between your shore and another. You think of your uncle and his sunstone, a tool for finding a path where there is no path, a way to chart a course through the beautiful, terrifying nothingness. The men next to you are discussing the nuances of a particularly bad backache. One of them had 2 winters ago. You pull a knot tight, the hemp biting into your finger. You look from the tiny, closing hole in the net to the immense, open mouth of the fjord. The net is for catching things, for bringing them in. The ship is for letting go, for heading out. And for the first time, the choice between the two doesn't feel like a choice at all. It feels like an inevitability, Your hands continue their work, closing the herring's sorrow, but your mind is already on the whale road, sailing on a ship of dreams, following a line of light in a milky stone. The work is done, or at least the morning's portion of it. The nets are mended, folded, and stored, their purpose fulfilled for another day. The older men are already hobbling back towards the longhouse, their thoughts, no doubt, turned to the midday meal. You should be following them. It is the natural rhythm of the day, the path you are expected to walk. But your feet, seemingly with a mind of their own, do not turn up the hill. Instead, you find yourself walking away from the shore, parallel to the water, heading towards the dark, looming mouth of the forest that hugs the fjord's edge. You've had your recommended daily allowance of other people, and it's not even noon yet. The desire for solitude is a physical ache, a need for a space not filled with the breath and bodies and expectations of your kin. The grass gives way to a carpet of fallen pine needles, and the open, airy world of the shoreline is swallowed by the deep shadows of the canopy. You step from one world into another, the change as abrupt as closing a door. Inside the forest, the air is still and cool, thick with the rich, loamy scent of decay and life. Sunlight struggles to pierce the dense ceiling of green, and where it succeeds, it falls in long, hazy shafts, illuminating dancing dust motes like tiny, otherworldly spirits. The silence in here is profound. It's a weighted silence, full of unspoken things. It's so quiet, you can hear the soft thud of your own heart, the rustle of your woolen tunic against your skin, and the anxious rhythm of your own thoughts. Every snapped twig under your shoe sounds like a clap of thunder. You walk deeper in, the trees standing around you like silent, patient giants. They are mostly pine and fir, their ancient trunks thick and covered in rough, armor-like bark. It's not a gentle, welcoming wood. It is a primal place, a place that holds its own secrets. And as you walk, you cannot shake the feeling of being watched, not by a predator, not by another person, but by the forest itself. This is the home of the Vitya, the spirits of the land. This is the obscure, unspoken faith of your people. While you might pray to Odin for wisdom or Thor for strength, it is these local, nameless spirits you truly fear and respect. They inhabit the strangely shaped rocks, the babbling brooks, the ancient trees. To anger them is to invite misfortune, to have your hunt fail, your path obscured, your footing slip at a crucial moment. You stop by a large, moss-covered boulder, one that looks vaguely like a sleeping animal. You reach into the small pouch at your belt where you keep a piece of flatbread from the morning meal. You break off a small crumb and place it carefully on the stone. It's either a respectful offering to the local land spirit, or you're just feeding a squirrel. Either way, in the deep silence of the woods, it feels like a sensible investment in not getting mysteriously tripped by a root. This quiet, personal transaction feels more real, more immediate than any grand prayer in the smoky longhouse. As you stand there, a thought, cold and sharp as the fjord water, cuts through your mind. What if you just kept walking? What if you left the nets, the longhouse, the whole fjord behind and simply walked away into these woods and never came back? The idea is both terrifying and exhilarating, but it is also foolish. To leave the community is to become nothing. It is to become an outlaw, an outlaw. This is the great and terrible historical fact that underpins your entire social structure. An outlaw without protection, without kin. His property can be seized. His life can be taken by anyone at any time without consequence. He is a wolfhead, a man to be hunted. He is legally dead. To choose to leave, to abandon your family and your chieftain, is to commit a kind of social suicide. The fear of this fate is a physical thing. It's a cold knot in your stomach. It's the predictability of your life, truly worse than that. To be utterly alone, hunted, with no one to stand for you, no one to even bury you. How a local thing. The assembly of free men who govern your region, but actually decide to make a man an outlaw, is a matter of some debate among scholars of the future. Was it a democratic vote among the landholders, a simple decree from a powerful chieftain, or just a messy matter of who could shout the loudest and have the most friends with large axes? The exact legal process is a mystery, but the result is not. It is total separation, severance from the very fabric of society. And yet, the desire persists. It is a stubborn, illogical weed growing in the well-tended garden of your life. Perhaps the trick isn't to become an utlagger. Perhaps the trick is to find a way to leave with permission, okay? To join a trading voyage, to sign on to a crew for a summer raid, to go with your uncle. That is the path. It's not to be cast out, but to sail. Out, to leave, not as a wolfhead, but as a warrior, a trader, an explorer. To return with silver, with stories, with a name that you have made for yourself, a name that is not just second son. You find a rocky outcrop that pushes out from the forested hillside, a natural balcony overlooking the world you've been trying to escape. From here, you can see everything. You turn your head one way and see the longhouse, the thread of smoke, still rising from its roof, a fragile symbol of community, warmth, family, and obligation. It looks so small from up here, a toy building nestled in the grass. Then you turn your head the other way and see the shoreline, the smaller fishing boats, the racks of drying fish, and the magnificent, sleeping form of a longship. Remember the sight of it from the beach. From here, its lethal grace is even more apparent, a perfect marriage of form and function. The house, the ship, the anchor, the wings. Your entire conflict laid out before you in a single panoramic view. The life you have and the life you could have. Staying means security, family, and the slow, grinding erosion of your own spirit. Leaving means mortal peril, uncertainty, and the chance to become someone else, to become yourself. The silence of the forest is no longer oppressive. It is clarifying. The choice is not easy. The risks are immense. But for the first time, looking down at the two poles of your existence, you know which way you are going. To pull, the problem is no longer if. The problem is how. You stayed there for a long time, perched between the sky and the earth, a silent witness to your own quiet, momentous decision. The sun warms the rock beneath you, and a gentle breeze, smelling of salt in distant lands, rustles the leaves in the trees behind you. It feels like an answer. You descend from the wooded outcrop, your feet finding the familiar path back towards the community. The world has not changed in the hour you were gone. The sky is the same shade of pearly gray. The air still carries the same scent of salt and pine. But you have changed. The decision has settled within you, not like a heavy stone, but like a compass needle finding its north. The vague, aching restlessness has been replaced by a quiet, sharp-edged resolve. Okay, you are no longer a passive observer of your own life. You are a conspirator, plotting a great escape. You walk back into the longhouse, and the wall of noise and smell hits you like a physical blow. It seems your brief flirtation with personal space is officially over. The hall is alive with the business of the midday meal. The central fire has been built up, and it now crackles merrily, casting a warm, dancing light on the faces of your kin. The air is thick with steam from a large cauldron and the overlapping sounds of dozens of conversations. It's the familiar, chaotic symphony of your life, but you hear it with new ears now, with the detached clarity of someone who is already halfway out the door. You take your place on the bench, a wooden bowl of stew thrust into your hands. The meal is a thick concoction of fish, likely cod, and whatever root vegetables could be coaxed from the thin northern soil turnips, carrots, onions. It's hot, and it's filling, and it has the same bland, unimpeachable logic as every other meal you've ever eaten. You can't complain, but you desperately want to. You eat slowly, methodically, using the meal as a cover for your real activity. Watching, your eyes scan the hall, no longer with the boredom of a disinterested youth, but with the keen eye of a strategist assessing the field. You see your father in deep conversation with another farmer, their hands gesturing as they discuss land boundaries or livestock prices. You see your mother, her face flushed from the heat of the fire, directing the serving of the food with a quiet authority. You see your siblings, your cousins, all the interlocking pieces of this small, intricate world. And you see your uncle. He sits slightly apart, as he often does, polishing a knife blade with a piece of oiled leather. He is a man who seems to occupy his own pocket of silence, even in the midst of this clamor. At his belt, you see it? The small, worn leather pouch. The callback is instant and sharp. It's the pouch containing the sunstone, the key to the pathless sea. Your gaze lingers on it. It is the physical manifestation of how near the central hearth. Two of the older warriors are hunched over a wooden board, engrossed in a game. It's Inefitov, the king's table, an obscure and beloved pastime. It is a game of strategy, not of chance. You watch as one player moves his pieces. He has the larger force, the attackers, which start on the edges of the board. His goal is simple, to surround and capture the king. The other player controls the king and a small band of loyal defenders who start in the center. His goal is to get his king from the central square to one of the four corners of the board to escape. The game is a perfect, silent metaphor for your entire existence. You are the king in the center, hemmed in on all sides by the overwhelming force of tradition, family, and duty. And your only path to victory is to break through the lines and escape to the corners of the world. You watch the game of Nefitov, where the king's men are hopelessly outnumbered. It's a comforting reminder that having a terrible strategic position is a time-honored tradition. As you watch the game, the chieftain's wife walks past, and the sunlight from the smoke hole catches the silver brooch on her shoulder. Kate's a magnificent piece, heavy and intricate, but it's not local work. The swirling patterns are Frankish, and the metal itself tells a story. This is the great engine of your society, the major historical fact that drives men like your uncle across the well-road: silver. Not just any silver, but foreign silver. Wealth here isn't just measured in land, which is finite, or in cattle, which can die. True, portable, undeniable power comes in the form of silver. Coins from Constantinople and Baghdad, goblets from England, jewelry from the lands to the south. Much of it is chopped into pieces. Hack silver, its value determined by weight alone, a brutally practical currency. A man with a pouch full of this silver can buy loyalty, build a ship, attract followers, and command respect. He can create his own future. Historians of a later age will trace the flow of this silver from these distant lands, but they will still puzzle over the exact roots and relationships that brought a dirham minted in Baghdad all the way to a remote fjord in Norway. Was it the result of pure, bloody raiding, a network of complex and far-reaching trade routes, or some murky combination of both? All you know is that the silver is proof. It is proof that someone left, faced the unknown, and returned victorious. It is the ultimate argument against staying put. Your uncle looks up from his knife, his gaze sweeping the hall. His eyes meet yours for a fleeting second. There is no acknowledgement, no sign that he has noticed your intense scrutiny. He is a difficult man to read, his face a mask of calm neutrality. He is not a chieftain, not a great warrior in the loud, boisterous sense. He is something else, something quieter, and perhaps more dangerous. He is a navigator. His value lies not in the strength of his arm, but in the knowledge he holds in his head, and in the strange, milky stone he keeps in his pouch. He is the one who can guide the long ship through the fog and the endless gray waves. He is the one who can find the whale road and, more importantly, find the way back. Your plan, which was only a vague feeling in the forest, began to crystallize into something solid. You must talk to him. You must convince him to let you join his next voyage. You don't know when there will be or where it will go. It doesn't matter. Any direction, as long as it is away. You finish the last of your stew. The flavorless mush feels different now. It is the taste of stagnation. You look from the silver on the chieftain's wife to the beleaguered king on the hennefact board to the leather pouch on your uncle's belt. The pieces are all there. Okay. Now you just need to make your move. The longhouse gradually empties as the last of the stew is scraped from the bowls. The brief, noisy communion of the midday meal dissolves, and the inhabitants scatter back to the endless list of tasks that constitute a life. Your father heads for the upper pastures to check on the flock. Your brother, Eric, takes a team of men to reinforce a stretch of fencing near the woods. You are supposed to be with him. Your hands are strong, your back is young, and the fence is weak. The logic is as solid and unyielding as the mountains. But today, for the first time, you disobey this logic. You do not follow Eric. Instead, you linger in the now quiet hall, your departure conspicuous in its delay. Your uncle has not moved. He is still sitting on his stool, but he has put away his knife and now holds a strange piece of wood. You watch him for a moment, then you begin to walk towards him, your heart hammering against your ribs like a smith in a hurry. You feel as subtle as a dropped anvil, but you hope the sheer audacity of your deviation from the daily plan will work in your favor. He is examining the tool with intense concentration. It's an obscure instrument, something you've only seen him handle once or twice before. A skewsclaw, cloud scraper, or cloudboard. A curious name for a curious object. It is a small, flat piece of wood with a handle and another, smaller piece of wood that can slide along a groove. It's part of his navigator's arsenal, a tool whose function is a mystery to most. You understand, vaguely, that he uses it in conjunction with his sunstone, perhaps to measure the height of the sun at noon, a way to gauge how far north or south you have traveled. It is another piece of the quiet magic that unlocks the wider world, another testament to a body of knowledge that feels infinitely more compelling than knowing how to mend a fence. He doesn't look up as you approach, which gives you a solid 10 seconds to reconsider all your life choices and the questionable merits of speaking your mind. You stop a few feet from him, a silent supplicant before a quiet God. He speaks. His voice is low and even. The fence is to the east. It is not a question. It is a statement of fact, a gentle reminder of your duty, and a clear challenge to your presence here. This is it, the moment of truth. You swallow, your throat suddenly dry. I know, you managed to say, your voice sounding thin and young to your own ears. I need to speak with you. He continues to run his thumb along the smooth wood of the tool, as if testing its balance. The silence stretches on long enough to knit a new sweater. You're beginning to think that no is his default answer to questions that haven't even been asked yet. Then he sets the cloudboard down with deliberate care and finally raises his eyes to meet yours. His gaze is not unkind, but it is deeply searching, as if he is trying to weigh your very soul. I have seen you, he says, his voice still quiet, but carrying an immense weight. I have seen you watching the sea more than you watch the sheep. The callback to your own secret longing is so direct, so accurate, that it almost knocks the breath from your lungs. He knew all along. You find your courage. I want to go with you, you say, the words coming out in a rush. The next time you sail, I want to be on that ship. You gesture vaguely with your head toward the door, in the direction of the fjord, in the direction of the waiting longship. Your uncle leans back slightly, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes, amusement, annoyance. The sea is not a daydream, he says flatly. It's not a story for a winter's night. It is cold, it is wet, and its only desire is to kill you. And if the sea doesn't succeed, the men you meet on other shores are often just as eager to try. He is testing you, painting the worst possible picture. He is giving you an exit, a chance to retreat back to the safety of the fence mending. Q. Stand your ground. I am not afraid of work, you say, thinking of the endless, mind-numbing hours mending nets. And I am not afraid of a fight. This is, you realize, a lie. You are afraid of many things, K, but you are more afraid of staying here. He considers you for a long moment. Why? He asks. Your brother will inherit the land. It is good land, Patel. Have a place here, a life. Why trade it for a chance at a wet grave? Here it is, the central question. And you give him the only honest answer you have, because my place here is to be his second. My life here is his leftover. I want to make a name for myself, to have something that is mine, something I have earned. You think of the Hag Silver, the ultimate proof of a life lived on one's own terms. Whether these expeditions were meticulously planned business ventures with investors and carefully divided shares, or simply opportunistic journeys thrown together by a charismatic captain with a good ship, is something the sagas don't always make clear. The line between a merchant, a mercenary, and a pirate was often beautifully and profitably blurred. But in all versions, a man could forge his own destiny. Your uncle grunts, a sound that could mean anything. He taps the leather pouch at his belt. It takes more than desire. It takes skill. What can you do on a ship? Can you read the wind? Can you reef a sail in a storm? Can you pull an oar for 2 days without sleep? What is your use? As the questions hang in the air, a brutal assessment of your worth. You have no good answer. You are a farmer's son. You can mend a net and shear a sheep and build a stone wall. You have no skills for the sea. I can learn, you say, your voice filled with more conviction than you feel. Okay. I will do any work, the worst work. I will not complain. Your uncle picks up his knife and a small block of wood and begins to carve, peeling off thin, fragrant slivers of pine. He seems to be considering your words, or perhaps just the grain of the wood. You wonder if this is how all great ventures begin, not with a call to arms or a king's decree, but in a quiet, smoky hall, with a desperate plea and a skeptical silence. You think of the Lewangor, the royal levy. That is one way to go to sea. Conscripted man on a king's ship fighting a king's war. It is an option, a possibility, but it is not the same. That is still following someone else's orders, serving someone else's purpose. You want to be on his ship, a voyage for profit, for discovery, for the sheer sake of going. After what feels like an eternity, he stops carving. He looks at the small, half-formed shape in his hand, then back at you. A man who cannot be trusted with a small task cannot be trusted with a great one, he says, speaking as if quoting an old proverb. He points with the knife toward the shore. The anchor rope for the long ship is frayed. Nearly a third of its length needs to be respun. It is heavy, dirty work. Okay? The tar will ruin your hands. It will take you days. Go, fix it. Let me see the quality of your work when you are unsupervised, tired, and your hands are raw. Then we will speak again. It is not a yes, but it is not a no. It is a test, a trial, a chance. It's a surge of fierce joy, so powerful it almost makes you dizzy, floods your chest. You nod, unable to speak, turn and walk out of the longhouse, not toward the fence, but toward the shore, toward the ship, toward the first, real, grueling step on the path that leads away. You walk down the path to the shore for the third time today, but this journey feels different from the others. The first was a walk of habit. The second, a walk of escape. One is a walk of purpose. The longship, which before was a distant symbol of dreams and possibilities, now waits for you as the site of your first real test. It looms larger as you approach, not just a beautiful object, but a complex machine. It's a beast of 1,000 parts, and your task is to tend to one of its most vital organs. You reach the pebbled beach and stand before the great anchor rope. It is coiled like a monstrous serpent near the ship's prow, a dark, greasy mass of fiber and tar. You look at the enormous, formidable rope. It looks less like a piece of equipment and more like a dead sea monster you've been asked to respectfully dismember. Your uncle's instructions were simple, but the task itself is monumental. This rope is as thick as your thigh, a testament to the incredible forces it is designed to withstand. To fix it is not a matter of simply tying a knot. It is a process of deconstruction and reconstruction, a deep and intimate form of repair. First, you must uncoil it, a task that is a battle in itself. The rope is stiff with salt and old tar, heavy and unwieldy. You pull, heave, and wrestle the massive coil into a long, straight line that stretches down the length of the beach. Your muscles, accustomed to the rhythms of the farm, are unprepared for this kind of dense, stubborn weight. By the time you have it laid out, you are already breathing heavily, a fine sheen of sweat on your brow, despite the cool air. Now, inspection. You walk its length, your eyes and fingers searching for the weak points your uncle mentioned. You find a section about a third of the way down. The outer strands are frayed and thinning, their integrity compromised by time and the relentless chafe of the seabed. It is here your work must begin. You sit on the cold, damp stones, take a deep breath, and begin the painstaking process of undoing what skilled hands once did. You must carefully unspin the 3 large strands that form the main body of the rope. We assist, holding their tightly wound form with a memory all their own. You have to use a marlin spike, a pointed wooden tool, to pry them apart, working the spike into the gaps and forcing them to yield. It is slow, brutal work, and the smell of old tar and brine fills your nostrils. The very construction of this rope is a major historical fact, a piece of technology as crucial as the ship's hull. These are not simple hemp ropes. The core fibers are from the bast of the linden tree, a long, tough fiber that is painstakingly harvested and processed. Whether a specialized class of craftsmen was solely responsible for these complex tasks, or if it was a communal skill known by all seafaring men, is a question that work-worn hands can no longer answer. The knowledge simply lived in the doing. The process is always the same. Fibers are twisted into yarns. The yarns are twisted in the opposite direction into strands, and the strands are twisted back the other way to form the final rope. This constant reversal of twists is what gives the rope its strength and stability, a dynamic tension that locks it all together. To repair it, you must follow these steps in reverse, peeling back the layers of another's labor. The strands. Then you unspin the individual yarns within the frayed section. Your fingers growing sticky with the black, tacky tar used to preserve the fiber from the corrosive saltwater. Hours pass. The sun, which was high in the sky when you started, begins its slow descent towards the jagged peaks across the fjord. The other men and women have long since returned to the longhouse, their day's work done, but you are still here. Your initial burst of determined energy has long since evaporated, replaced by a dull, throbbing ache in your shoulders and back. After a few hours, your hands feel like they've been personally insulted by every fiber in the rope. Your back, meanwhile, has lodged a formal complaint with the rest of your body and is threatening to go on strike. This is the test, you realize. It is not just about skill. It is about endurance. It's about your ability to do a miserable job alone with no one watching to praise or criticize you. As twilight begins to bleed across the sky, painting the water in shades of bruised purple and soft orange, you look up the hill. You can see the longhouse, a call back to the world you have temporarily left behind. A warm, yellow light now glows from its doorways, and the familiar plume of smoke from the roof promises warmth, food, and company. The temptation to drop everything and return to that comfort is a powerful physical pull. But you turn back to the rope. That warmth is what you are trying to earn the right to leave. The world grows dark. The last of the light fades, and you are left in a deep twilight of the northern evening with only the stars and the sliver of a new moon for company. Now, a new element enters your struggle. Fear. The familiar shoreline becomes a place of menacing shapes and shadows. The long ship, with its carved dragon prow, looks less like a vessel and more like a great burial mound. Your mind, tired and suggestible, begins to wander to old stories, to the obscure terrors that lurk in the dark. You think of the Draugr, the walking dead, the restless spirits of great warriors or greedy men who cannot lie peacefully in their graves, but instead rise to guard their barrels and bring ruin to the living. The sound of the waves lapping on the shore sounds like slow, heavy breathing. The cry of a night bird sounds like a mournful wail. You work faster now, your movements fueled by a new, nervous energy. The good news is you finally found the solitude you were craving. The bad news is it's come with a soul-crushingly tedious task and the creeping suspicion that every shadow is a monster. It's not quite the peaceful retreat you'd imagined. You have laid in new, tarred yarns, and now you begin the final, crucial stage, respinning the great strands. You must twist them together with the perfect amount of tension, ensuring they lock together as strongly as the original. It is work that requires all your focus, all your strength. Your hands are raw, your muscles burn, and your mind is spooked by ghosts, but you work on, knot by knot, twist by twist, rebuilding the link between the ship and the land, even as you plot to sever your own. The final strand is twisted into place. The last knot is tied. It is done. You collapse backwards onto the cold, damp stones of the beach, your body a chorus of screaming muscles and abject relief. The anchor rope lies before you, a single, unbroken line in the faint starlight, its repaired section dark and solid, a testament to a night of brutal, solitary labor. There is no triumphant fanfare, no one to clap you on the back. There is only the immense, crushing silence of the night, the gentle lapping of the fjord, and a sense of exhaustion so profound it feels like a physical presence. You feel less like a person and more like a piece of abstract sculpture entitled Man Brutally Abused by Rope. You are sticky, sore, and probably smell like a pine tree's worst nightmare. Hey, your hands are a mess of scrapes and blisters. The black pine tar worked deep into every line and under every nail, a gritty, stubborn stain that feels like it will never wash away. This, you think, is the unwritten part of the sagas. The glory is in the sailing and the fighting, but the foundation of it all is this miserable, unseen work in the dark. Slowly, painfully, you get to your feet. Every joint protests. You feel 100 years old. The walk back up the path to the longhouse is a slow, stumbling pilgrimage. The world is utterly transformed by the dead of night. The familiar path is a trench of blackness, and the trees of the forest are hulking, its faceless shapes against the star-dusted sky. You are hyper-aware of every sound, the hoot of a distant owl, the rustle of some small creature in the undergrowth, the crunch of your own weary feet on the dirt. It feels like you are the only living thing moving in a sleeping world. The longhouse comes into view, a great dark mound against the horizon, its roofline like the back of a slumbering beast. There are no lights, no sounds. The entire community is deep in the embrace of sleep, secure in the warmth of the collective. You are the outlier, the one returning from a self-imposed exile. It's covered in the grime of your ambition. Reaching the heavy wooden door, you face your next challenge, entering without waking the entire hall. Your attempt to be silent is a masterclass. In failure, you lift the wooden latch, which scrapes with the sound of a dying goat. You pull the door inward, and its great weight causes it to groan on its leather hinges. Every floorboard you step on inside groans back, each one seeming to tell a long and tedious story about the stress it's under. You are a symphony of stealthlessness, moving through the darkness with all the grace of a cow on ice. The air inside is thick and warm, heavy with the scent of sleeping bodies you remember from the morning. But now, after a night in the clean, cold air, it feels suffocating, almost rancid. You can hear the soft breathing, the occasional snore or sigh, the rustle of a woolen blanket. Okay, this is the world you seek to escape, and yet your task now is to rejoin it as if you never left. This secret labor is the polar opposite of how power and loyalty are normally built. Your chieftain is known as a Bagabrati, a ring giver. This is the great social engine of your world, the major historical fact that holds the hierarchy together. The good leader rewards his followers publicly, bestowing gifts of silver arm rings, ornate weapons, and fine cloth in the bright, firelit hall for all to see. Loyalty is a transaction, bought with generosity and sealed by witness. What you have just done is the inverse. You have given your labor, your pain, your exhaustion as a secret offering, a down payment to one man for a chance to escape this very system. You are not trying to earn a ring to wear in the hall. You are trying to earn a place on the ship that leaves it all behind. You finally reach your sleeping platform, a small patch of familiar territory in the vast darkness. You see the still forms of your siblings, curled in sleep, a callback to the peaceful beginning of this very long day. As a chasm has opened between you and them in the intervening hours. They will wake to another day of predictable chores. Their bodies rested. You will wake, if you wake at all, to a body so sore it will feel broken, the price of your secret hope. You do not bother to undress. The effort is too much to contemplate. You simply collapse onto your pallet, the rough wool of your tunic adhering to the sticky tar on your arms. If you don't so much fall asleep as you do get dragged into unconsciousness by a current too strong to fight. If the longhouse were to catch fire right now, you'd probably just incorporate the warmth into a pleasant dream about finally being clean. And in that deep, bottomless well of exhaustion, you dream. Or perhaps it is something more than a dream. What Vikings truly believed about the world of dreams, whether they were messages from the gods, journeys of the free soul, or just the brain's confused reaction to a questionable fish stews, a realm of beautiful speculation that we can never fully enter. But what you see feels real. You see an animal, clear as day, standing in the darkness of your mind. It is a hawk, its feathers sharp and perfectly defined, its eyes like chips of amber, burning with a fierce, intelligent light. It does not move. It simply watches you, and you feel no fear, only a strange sense of recognition. You have heard of the Filger, the follower spirits that are tied to a family line or an individual, supernatural fetches that represent a person's true nature. To see one is a powerful omen. The hawk looks at you, and you understand. It is a creature of the open sky, of keen sight, of swift and deadly action. It is not a creature of the farm. It is not a creature of the fence line. It is a hunter, a traveler. It is you. And then there is only darkness, a sleep so deep and dreamless. It is like a small death. Waking is not the gentle, foggy emergence it was yesterday. It is a violent recall to a body that has been thoroughly betrayed. You wake up feeling like you've been used as a practice dummy by a particularly enthusiastic giant. Every muscle has a tiny, angry voice, and they are all complaining at once. The dull ache from last night has sharpened into 1,000 points of fiery protest. Your back, your shoulders, your legs, every part of you that was involved in the brutal wrestling match with the anchor rope is now screaming. You open your eyes to the familiar sight of the longhouse roof. The shadows just beginning to recede as the morning light filters through the smoke hole. For a moment, you wonder if the night was just a terrible dream, a fantasy of pain and exertion. But then you try to move, and the searing agony in your muscles confirms it was all too real. You look at your hands, tainted, black with tar and decorated with angry red blisters, some of which have broken in the night. The sight of them, battered and ruined, brings a strange, grim satisfaction. They are the evidence. They are the proof. You sit up slowly, a process that involves a series of groans so heartfelt they could be mistaken for prayers. The longhouse is already stirring with the same low-level hum of activity as yesterday morning. Fire is being tended. The smell of porridge is beginning to fill the air. But you are out of sync with this rhythm. You move like a broken old man, each step a carefully negotiated truce with your own body. You make your way to the breakfast bowl, and your brother Eric gives you a look that is a perfect blend of confusion and disapproval. It's a look that says, I have no idea what you were doing yesterday, but I'm sure it's stupid, and you look terrible. He claps you on the shoulder, a gesture of brotherly affection that sends a jolt of pure agony through your entire frame. The fence is half finished, he says, not unkindly. We could have used your back yesterday. You just nod, unable to explain, and focus on the warm porridge. It is the same lumpy, bland sustenance as yesterday, but today you are grateful for it. Its simple heat, a small comfort in a world of pain. After forcing down the meal, you know what you must do? You walk out of the longhouse and down the path to the shore. The morning is bright and cold, and the fjord is a sheet of dark, rippled glass. Every step is deliberate. This is not a walk of escape or purpose, but of judgment. You are going to face your work and your uncle. You arrive at the beach, and there it is, the rope. In the clear morning light, it looks even more formidable. You walk its length and inspect your repair. The new section is dark, almost black with the fresh tar, contrasting with the paler, weathered gray of the original rope. The strands are tight. The twist is even. It looks right. It looks strong. You stand by your handiwork, trying to look casual, as if you spent every night wrestling with giant, tarred ropes. You feel about as natural as a fish in a tree. You are terrified that he will find a flaw, a weakness, some sign of your inadequacy. The fear of failure is a cold stone in your gut. It's the fear of that obscure but powerful concept of shame and scorn. To be seen as a fool, a weakling who couldn't handle a man's task, that social dishonor would be a heavier burden than any physical pain. Your repair of this rope is your only defense against it. An hour passes. Then you see him. Your uncle. He is walking down the path from the longhouse, moving with his usual, unhurried, deliberate pace. He doesn't look at you as he approaches. His eyes are fixed on the rope. He arrives at the start of the repaired section and stops. The silence is absolute, broken only by the cry of a distant gull. This moment feels more formal, more significant than any gathering in the longhouse. It is a private thing, a two-man assembly where a binding judgment will be made. The thing is the great pillar of our law, the assembly of free men where disputes are settled and fates are decided. This feels like a miniature version of that, a trial with only one judge. He crouches down, his knees cracking in the quiet air. He runs his hands over your work, his calloused fingers reading the texture of the rope, feeling the tension of the fibers. He tests the knots, pulls at the splices, his expression unreadable. You hold your breath, your entire future seeming to hang on his assessment. He spends what feels like a lifetime examining the rope from every angle. Then he straightens up and looks for the first time, not at the rope, but at you. His eyes drop to your battered, tar-stained hands, a clear callback to the cost of the work. He sees the blisters, the grime, the price you paid during the night. A long moment passes. His face is a stony mask. Then he gives a single, almost imperceptible nod. "It will hold," he says. The 2 words are the greatest praise you have ever received. They are an acceptance, a validation. They are a yes. Relief washes over you so completely you feel lightheaded. The fear of vanishes, replaced by a deep, bone-weary pride. The test is over. You have passed. The work is not always so simple, he says, his tone shifting from judge to mentor. When we are at sea, a repair must be done quickly. In a gale, with the deck slick with ice and freezing waves crashing over you, he is managing your expectations, reminding you that this was only the first, easiest step. He turns to leave, then pauses. "We need supplies, things that cannot be easily made or found here. We leave on the next full moon. That gives you 2 weeks. Be ready and tell no one." A plan spoken aloud is a plan that can be heard by ill fortune. He doesn't explain what the plan is, where you are going, or what you'll be doing. The details are not your concern yet. How a crew was formally bound to a captain for a private voyage remains debated by scholars. Was it a handshake, a sworn oath on a sacred arm ring, or a detailed oral contract witnessed by others, with shares of the potential loot agreed upon before the anchor was even raised? For you, it is simply this, a quiet command and a shared secret. He walks away, leaving you alone on the beach with the longship, the rope, and the dizzying, terrifying, wonderful knowledge that your life is about to truly begin. The 2 weeks that follow are perhaps the strangest and longest of your life. Time seems to stretch and warp. The days, filled with the familiar, back-breaking rhythm of farm work, crawl by with agonizing slowness. Yet the nights, when you lie on your pallet and watch the moon swell from a sliver to a pregnant orb, seem to fly by, rushing you towards a future you both crave and dread. You are living a double life. On the surface, you are the dutiful second son, returned to the fold. You work harder than ever before, a fact that does not go unnoticed. You help Eric finish the fence, your sore muscles protesting with every move. But you do not complain. You muck out the buyer. You haul stones from the new field. You go about your daily chores with the intense focus of a man trying to look normal, which of course only makes you look incredibly suspicious. You mend a stretch of fence with the solemn gravity of someone defusing a bomb. A family seems to have decided you've just become exceptionally strange and sullen, which, to be fair, isn't a huge departure from being a teenager. Your newfound silent dedication to chores is seen as a welcome, if baffling, personality quirk. Beneath this veneer of dutiful normalcy, a secret life is unfolding. It happens in stolen moments, in the quiet twilight hours, or at the deep of night. It is a life of clandestine preparation. You begin to assemble your gear, the meager possessions you will take with you into the unknown. What a typical sailor or warrior would carry with them as personal gear is subject to interpretation. Did they bring sentimental items, a carved rune stone for luck, a favorite gaming piece? The sagas speak of swords and shields, of axes and mail shirts, but are silent on the small, human clutter of a life packed into a single sea chest. Your own preparations are brutally practical. You have a small wooden chest, one you made yourself years ago, and into this you place your worldly wealth. A spare linen tunic, carefully folded, a heavy woolen cloak, essential for surviving the cold, wet nights at sea. Your sharpest knife, its leather sheath oiled and supple. A whetstone to keep its edge keen. You add a small pouch containing a piece of flint and a steel striker for making fire. You have no silver, no coins, nothing of value. So you add another, smaller leather pouch, this one entirely empty. It is an act of pure, unadulterated optimism. An empty home for the wealth you plan to acquire. Your uncle directs this secret preparation with the subtlety of a ghost. He never speaks to you directly about the voyage when others are near. Instead, the instructions come in veiled remarks or through tasks that seem mundane on the surface. One evening, he asked you to help him check the stores in the small, stone-lined cellar. While down there, in the cool, earthy dark, he points to several large barrels. A long journey requires the right food, he says, his voice a low murmur, and he explains the vital, major fact of survival at sea: provisions. You see barrels of dried fish, mostly cod, hung and dried in the open air until it is as hard as a board stockfish. You see salted pork, packed and brined, the fat a promise of energy. You see sacks, of course, flour for making hardtack. A simple biscuit of flour and water baked until it is a rock-hard, unspoilable bread. It is a diet of preservation, of function over flavor. There are also water skins and barrels of weak, watery ale, which is often safer to drink than water from an unknown source. There is no romance in this food. It is the grim, necessary fuel for the engine of the voyage. A few nights later, your uncle finds you alone, sharpening your knife by the fading light of the fire. He hands you a piece of dried venison, tough as leather, and a smooth, heavy stone. A useful skill, he says, and shows you how to make henfi, or sea fist. It is an obscure but vital bit of culinary technology, the perfect food for a traveler. You spend the evening pounding the dried meat against a stone, shredding it into fine, fluffy fibers. Then you mix it with rendered animal fat, packing it all down into a small, dense cake. It looks deeply unappetizing and has the texture of a rock, but it's packed with energy and will not spoil for months. It's the great-great-grandfather of the protein bar, and it is somehow even less appealing. As you work the meat and fat together with your hands, the repetitive motion becomes a kind of meditation. You are not just preparing food. You are preparing for a new life, one where sustenance is something you carry with you, not something that is simply provided at the end of a day's labor. With each passing day, you feel a growing sense of detachment from the world around you. You watch your family as if through a pane of glass. You hear their laughter, their arguments, their plans for the autumn harvest. And it all sounds like it is happening to someone else. A quiet melancholy settles over you. You are getting what you wanted, the escape you craved, but you are only now beginning to understand the price. The price is this: you must become a stranger to your own life before you even leave it. One evening, you see two of your younger cousins playing hennified by the fire. A direct callback to the game you watched with such intensity 2 weeks ago. But now, you see it differently. You don't just see the king trying to escape. You see the subtle, complex strategies of the attacker and the defender. You see feints and sacrifices. And you see your uncle sitting across the hall, watching the game with his usual placid expression. You realize you are a piece on his board, not the king, not yet. You are a pawn, a simple foot soldier, being moved into position for a game whose rules you do not fully understand. You don't feel used. You feel, for the first time, like you are part of a strategy, a small but necessary piece of a grand, unfolding plan. The moon is nearly full now. The time is close, and you are, for better or worse, ready? The full moon finds you. It hangs high and bright in the vast, clear sky, a silent, silver witness to the night's work. Its light pours down onto the sleeping world, so brilliant it casts sharp, dark shadows. You have not slept. You have lain on your pallet, every sense screaming with awareness, listening to the sounds of the longhouse settle into the deep, rhythmic breathing of slumber. You have waited for this specific quality of silence, the moment when the last cough has subsided and the last restless sleeper has found their peace. Now is the time. With a slowness that is a physical agony, you rise from your sleeping platform. Each movement is calculated, precise. You are a shadow detaching itself from other shadows. You gather the small wooden sea chest you had hidden beneath the platform, its meager contents representing the entirety of your past and the foundation of your future. You move through the hall, a ghost in your own home. You pass the sleeping form of your father, his face softened in sleep, free from the daily worries of the farm. You pass your mother, a dark shape under a pile of woolen blankets. You pass Eric, your brother, who sleeps the profound, untroubled sleep of a man who knows exactly who he is and where he belongs. A wave of profound, unexpected grief washes over you. You are leaving everything you have ever known. Every face, every voice, every shared meal, every argument. You are cutting the rope that moors you to your own life. You take one last look at the great sleeping hall, the smoky air, the dying embers of the central hearth. You feel a profound sense of loss, mixed with the equally profound relief of never having to eat that particular fish stew ever again. Then you turn, slip through the heavy door, and close it softly behind you, leaving your old world sleeping, unaware. The moonlight on the path is so bright, it's like a pale imitation of day. The world is rendered in shades of silver and black. You make your way not directly to the shore, but to a small, hidden copse of trees where you had stashed your sea chest earlier in the week. As you approach, you see you are not alone. A handful of other shadows detach themselves from the darkness. Your heart leaps into your throat before you recognize them. There is Bjorn, a cousin known for his fiery temper and incredible strength. There is Finn, an older, quieter man who lost his own farm to a sickness in his livestock 2 seasons ago. There are 2 brothers, Haldor and Gunnar, young and reckless, with reputations for being better fighters than farmers. And, of course, there is your uncle, who appears as if from nowhere, a steady, calming presence in the tense silence. You are not the only one, then. You are part of a hand-picked group. This isn't just a simple voyage, it's a conspiracy. Whether such unspoken voyages were common, a way for a chieftain's ambitious relatives to seek their fortune without officially challenging his authority, or if they were rare and deeply risky acts of defiance, is a nuance of Viking Age politics that the sagas hint at but never fully explain. Looking at the grim, determined faces around you, you suspect it is the latter. Your uncle gathers the small group with a glance. "We are a felag now," he says, his voice a low whisper that carries in the still night air. A society, a fellowship. This is the great historical fact that will bind you together from this moment on. You are not just a crew of hired hands. You are partners in a shared enterprise, a felag, bound by an unspoken oath to support one another, to share in the work, the risk, and any profit that might come from it. It is a bond of trust, forged in secret, a commitment more powerful than any contract. Your uncle then turns his attention to a small wooden disc he pulls from his pouch. It's a bearing dial, a simple but ingenious tool. In the center is a small hole where a pin would go, marking the length of the pin's shadow at sunrise and sunset. A navigator can find true east and west, and thus true north. He is taking a final reading from the moon and the stars, confirming his mental map of the world before you depart. It is an obscure piece of navigational science, a quiet display of the mastery that makes this entire venture possible. Then the work begins. Under your uncle's quiet direction, you all move towards the shore, a silent, purposeful procession. You always imagined sailing away would involve a heroic speech and a cheering crowd. The reality involves a lot more shushing and a desperate fear of tripping over a rock in the dark. You retrieve the barrels of food, the water skins, and the other supplies that have been secreted near the beach over the past week and begin loading them onto the longship. The group of you moves with what you hope is the silence of wolves, but it's probably closer to the sound of several clumsy bears trying to tiptoe through a pile of dry leaves. Everything is heavier, more awkward in the dark. The ship is a vast, dark shape, waiting patiently. Once the provisions are aboard and secured, the true test begins, launching the ship. The great vessel rests on log rollers, using long wooden levers. You must all work together to slowly, carefully push the tons of oak and iron down the slight incline of the beach and into the water. It is back-breaking, lung-searing work. The only sounds are the grunts of exertion, the groan of the logs, and the quiet, urgent commands of your uncle. Together. Now, heave. You put your shoulder to the cold, hard hull, your feet slipping on the wet stones, and push with everything you have. You are no longer an individual, but a small part of a larger machine, a component in this fellowship of force. You feel a strange sense of belonging, of shared purpose that you never felt while mending a fence. You are all pushing against the weight of the ship, but you're also pushing against the weight of the lives you have left behind. Inch by inch, the great ship moves. The sound of its hull finally scraping against the gravel and then sliding into the water is the most beautiful sound you have ever heard. It is the sound of freedom. The ship is afloat, bobbing gently in the dark water of the fjord. You scramble aboard, your heart pounding with a mixture of terror and exhilaration. You find your place on one of the rowing benches, your meager sea chest stowed beneath it. You instinctively touch the small, empty leather pouch at your belt, a callback to your quietest, most personal ambition. This is it, the point of no return. Your uncle stands at the tiller in the stern. Unship oars, he commands, his voice the first sound to break the silence since you reached the water. You and the others lift the long, heavy oars and fit them into the oarlocks. You are ready. You are a crew. You are a phallic, and under the light of the full moon, you dip your oars into the black water and pull silently away from the shore. The world shrinks to the space of the ship. Okay, your universe is now defined by the rough, worn wood of the rowing bench beneath you and the thick, smooth shaft of the oar in your hands. There is no sound but the rhythmic, unified groan of the oarlocks, the gentle splash and pull of a dozen oars dipping into the black water as one, in the heavy, synchronized breathing of the men around you. This is the first payment for your freedom. This is the freedom you craved, the opportunity to trade the familiar agony of farm work for the new, an exciting agony of rowing a multi-ton vessel until your arms feel like wet noodles. The work is all-consuming, demands a unity of purpose that you have never experienced. You pull when the man in front of you pulls. You rest when he rests. Your body becomes a cog in the machine, and the machine is the ship, and the ship is the phallic, the fellowship. There is no room for individual thought, only for shared rhythm. Dip, pull, breathe. Dip, pull, breathe. The mantra erases everything else. The moon is your only lamp, casting a silver road upon the dark, still water of the fjord. The shores glide past like sleeping giants, their familiar shapes made strange and menacing by the darkness. You row past farms and homesteads you have known your entire life, small pockets of light long since extinguished. Occasionally, a dog barks, its distant challenge echoing in the immense quiet, but no one stirs. The world sleeps on, completely unaware that a tiny, treasonous floating enterprise is gliding silently past. The feeling is both deeply profound and slightly ridiculous. You are enacting a great betrayal, a flight to a new destiny, but you are doing so with the quiet anxiety of a teenager sneaking out of the house. Your uncle stands at the stern, a steady, dark silhouette against the star-dusted sky. K holds the great steering oar, the SDJ, which is mounted on the right side of the ship. K. This is the obscure but essential piece of anatomy that gives this side of the vessel its name, the St. John Eye, the starboard, a word that will one day become starboard. From his position, he guides the ship's path, a slight push or pull on the tiller, translating into a gentle turn, keeping you in the deepest channel, away from the treacherous shallows. This is the great, unheralded genius of the longship. Major historical fact that you are now living. It is two beasts in one. On the open sea, its great square sail can catch the wind and carry it across vast distances with astonishing speed. But in the narrow confines of a fjord like this one, or in the unpredictable currents of a river, or when the wind simply dies, it becomes this, a galley powered by human muscle. The oars give it maneuverability, stealth, and the ability to travel independent of the wind's whims. This versatility is what makes it the perfect tool for an explorer, a trader, or a raider. It can sneak up a river to a sleeping town just as easily as it can cross the railroad. How the chain of command worked on such a privateering ship is not perfectly clear from the sagas. Was the captain's word absolute law, a military hierarchy on a floating plank? Or was it more of a democracy of trusted warriors, where the navigator, the man who knew the secret paths of the sea, held a unique and powerful form of authority? Watching your uncle at the tiller, his quiet confidence radiating through the darkness, you suspect it is the latter. He is the master of the how and the where, and for now, that makes his word law. The man in front of you, the fiery-tempered Bjorn, rose with a grim, powerful rhythm, his enormous back muscles bunching and releasing under his tunic. He looks like a mountain that has somehow learned to row a boat. You make a mental note not to get into an argument with him over food rations. The quiet man, Finn, rose with an endurance that seems born of pure sorrow, his gaze fixed on the receding shoreline, the ghost of the farm he lost perhaps still visible to him in the dark. You are beginning to learn the men you are bound to, not by their words, but by the language of their labor. You are all equals here, stripped of your lands and your lineage, your worth measured only by the strength of your back and the endurance in your spirit. As the hours wear on, the initial adrenaline fades, replaced by a deep, burning fatigue. Your hands, already blistered from the anchor rope, are now raw and screaming. Every pull on the oar is a fresh wave of pain, but you do not stop. You cannot stop. To stop is to fail the man in front of you and the man behind you. To stop is to fail. The fjord begins to widen, the dark cliffs on either side receding. You pass a familiar landmark, a high, rocky outcrop that juts out over the water. It is a powerful callback, a punch to the gut. It is the very spot where you sat in the forest, looking down at the longhouse and the ship, and made your final, irreversible decision to leave. Seeing it now from the water, a dark shape against the sky that you are now leaving behind forever, solidifies the reality of your choice. You are on the other side now, literally and figuratively. The place of your secret decision is now just another landmark receding into the past, a gravestone for the life you have chosen to bury. The sky in the east begins to lighten, shifting from inky black to a soft, deep indigo. The stars begin to fade. Dawn is coming. You can feel a change in the air, a new scent on the wind. It is the smell of open water, a sharper, cleaner, wilder saltiness than the familiar smell of the fjord. Your uncle gives a quiet order. Ship oars, but the rhythm is broken. You pull the heavy oars back inside the ship, the sudden silence feeling strange and vast. There is a new sound now, the sound of small waves slapping against the hull. Hell reached the mouth of the fjord. You have reached the sea. You drift for a moment, the ship bobbing on the gentle swell of the open ocean. Before you is a horizon that is nothing but a seamless, dark line where the water meets the sky. It is terrifying. It is beautiful. It is everything you have ever wanted. You drift on the swell of the open sea, a tiny, man-made island of wood and wheel between the vastness of the water and the sky. The air is different here. It's cleaner, colder, and carries the raw, untamed scent of the great void. Behind you, the fjord you have just escaped is a dark, narrowing wound in the coastline. Ahead of you is everything else. The exhaustion from the night of rowing sits deep in your bones, a heavy, leaden ache, but there is no time for rest. After a night of rowing, you'd think a break would be welcome, but the break just involves a different set of terrifyingly heavy objects that need to be hoisted into the air. It seems relaxation on a long ship is just a variety of hard labor you haven't tried yet. Your uncle's voice, calm and clear, in the morning air, cuts through your fatigue. Time to make sail. Now, a new kind of work begins, a new choreography you must learn. The ship's mast, a single enormous pole of straight-grained pine, lies resting on two crutches down the center of the ship. The first task is to step it under the direction of Finn, the quiet, experienced sailor. You and the rest of the phallic unlash the great mast. It is monstrously heavy. It takes 8 of you to lift it, staggering under the weight. You move it towards the center of the ship, where a massive block of oak is set into the keel. This is the curling, or old woman, a beautifully practical piece of engineering carved in the shape of a fish. The base of the mast foot, is set carefully into a groove in the curling. Then comes the truly dangerous part, with some men pushing from the base and others pulling on the thick ropes of the forestay. You must walk the mast upright. It rises slowly, a great tree growing from the deck, swaying precariously against the pale dawn sky. You pull on the rope with all your might, your blistered hands screaming in protest, your eyes fixed on the top of the mast, praying it doesn't fall and crush someone. Finally, with a solid thud, it slots into its final upright position. The crew moves quickly to secure it, tightening the shrouds and stays. It's a complex web of ropes that holds the mast in place against the incredible force of the wind. The veteran sailors move with the fluid, practiced grace, handling the ropes as if they were born with them in their hands. You, on the other hand, handle the ropes with the grace of a man trying to wrestle a very angry snake, while also trying not to fall into the sea. You do your best to keep up, to watch and learn, to not get in the way. At the very top of the mast is the Vind's Valor, the weather vane. It is an obscure but beautiful object. A gilded bronze bird with outstretched wings that now catches the first rays of the rising sun, glowing like a tiny, personal star. It is a symbol of the ship's prestige, a flash of gold to be seen across the waves. Now, for the sail. It is a vast, heavy rectangle of woven wool, currently bundled and tied to a long wooden yardarm. This sail is a major historical fact, a piece of technology that gives you your power. It is woven from the wool of hundreds of sheep, each thread, spun and loomed by the women of your village. The finished fabric has been treated with a thick, greasy mixture of tallow and fish oil, making it water-resistant and less porous, allowing it to better catch the wind. You and the others attach the halyards, the ropes used for hoisting, and begin to pull. The yardarm, with a great sail bundled around it, begins its slow ascent up the mast. It is a fight against gravity, a battle of muscle and rope. Finally, it reaches the top. Another command is given, and the ropes holding the sail itself are released. It unfurls with a sound like a thunderclap, a great, cream-colored expanse against the morning sky, momentarily blocking out the sun. For a second, it just hangs there, limp and lifeless. Then, the offshore breeze finds it. The sail catches the wind with a sound like a giant's thunderous sigh of relief. It bellies out, suddenly alive and hard as a sheet of iron. The ship leans, and for a terrifying moment, you're convinced you're all about to take an impromptu bath in the North Sea. But then it rights itself with a groan of straining timbers, and you feel a surge, a powerful forward motion completely different from the rhythmic plodding of the oars. You are moving, really moving. The water begins to hiss and foam along the hull. The ship has woken up. How effectively these square-rigged ships can actually sail against the wind is a topic of fierce debate and practical experimentation among modern shipbuilders. Could they manage a course 45 degrees to the wind, or was it a much clumsier, wider angle, making any journey westward a long and patient zigzag across the sea? All you know is that with the wind coming from behind you, a steady breeze pushing you from the land you've just abandoned, the ship feels like a hawk catching a thermal, soaring effortlessly. Your uncle stands at the starboard tiller, his body braced against the ship's new motion, his eyes scanning the horizon. He pulls out his sunstone, the familiar milky crystal from the longhouse, a callback to the very beginning of your journey. He holds it up to the sky, even though the sun is now clearly visible, a rising orb of orange fire. He is not looking for the sun itself, but for the polarized light, confirming his bearing with the quiet confidence of a master. He adjusts the tiller slightly, and the ship settles on its new course north along the coast. He has a destination. In his mind, a secret known only to him. For the first time since you left, he allows himself a small, grim smile. The plan is working. You have escaped. The real journey has just begun. The world becomes a routine of wood, wool, and water. The initial, heart-pounding exhilaration of escape settles into the steady, monotonous reality of the voyage. Life on the ship is governed not by the sun, but by a rhythm of watches. It's split into two halves. One watch sleeps while the other works. Then you switch. Sleep is a generous term for what you get. How sailors manage to get any meaningful rest on these open, exposed decks, especially in rough weather, is a testament to human endurance that historical sources don't fully detail. Did they lash themselves to the ship, or just collapse in a wet heap and hope for the best? You find the answer is the latter. You wedge yourself between your chest and the hull, pull your damp, heavy woolen cloak over your head to shield you from the wind and spray, and fall into a few hours of twitchy, unrestful slumber. Your sea chest is your chair, your table, and your pillow. The concept of a bed has become a distant, luxurious memory. It's like privacy or warm feet. When you are on watch, there is always work. You learn the 100 tasks that keep the ship alive. You learn to trim the great square sail, adjusting the lines to catch the wind at the best angle. You learn to watch the rigging, looking for any sign of chafe or wear. And you learn the most tedious, thankless, and vital job of all, bailing. The longship, for all its strength and flexibility, is not perfectly waterproof. Its water constantly seeps through the planks, collecting in the bilge, the lowest part of the hull. Your turn comes, and you climb down into the cramped, dark space beneath the deck boards. The air here is thick, a foul cocktail of stagnant seawater, tar, and wet wood. The smell is a powerful callback to the heavy, earthy scent of the longhouse, but twisted into something sour and mobile. It is the scent of a home that is not rooted in the earth, but is in a constant battle against the sea. You use a wooden bucket to scoop the sloshing, dirty water and dump it overboard, over and over, until your back aches and your arms burn. It is a fight against entropy, a job that is never truly finished. You sail north, always north, following the ancient sea road. that gives your land its name. This is the great historical fact of your geography, the Norveger, the Northway. Your country is not a solid landmass, but a long, impossibly convoluted coastline. A maze of thousands of islands, skerries, and deep fjords. The only reliable way to travel is by sea. This route is the lifeline of your people, a maritime highway used for trade, for communication, and for war. You pass stunning, brutal landscapes, mountains that plunge directly into the sea, their peaks capped with snow, even in summer, waterfalls that plummet hundreds of feet, their roar a distant thunder, tiny fishing villages tucked into sheltered coves, which you give a wide berth, for you are a secret ship, a ghost on this busy highway. Your uncle navigates this complex world with unnerving confidence. At night, he uses the stars. During the day, the sun. And sometimes, you see him consulting an obscure tool you've never seen before. A piece of dark, polished wood, about the length of your forearm. It is carved with a series of lines and notches. Okay. He runs his thumb over it, feeling its contours. It is a sea chart of a kind, a tactile map that can be read by touch, even in the pitch dark. Its carvings representing the headlands, islands, and safe channels of the Northway. It is another piece of his secret knowledge, another key to his mastery of the sea. The days blend into one another, distinguished only by the changing weather. One day, the sea is calm, the sun is bright, and the ship glides along with a steady, peaceful hiss. The next, the sky turns a bruised gray, the wind howls, and the sea rises up in angry green and white mountains. The ship, which felt so large and stable, is tossed about like a piece of driftwood. In these moments, terror is a constant companion. The deck is slick with freezing spray, and you must move carefully, clinging to the ropes for dear life. There are two states of being on the ship, wet and about to be wet again. You wear the dampness like a second skin, a cold, clammy uniform for the members of this exclusive, miserable club. Food is a simple, joyless affair. Twice a day, you chew on stockfish so hard you have to hammer it soft before you can eat it, and a piece of the rock-hard bread. The famous sea fist you sew, carefully prepared, turns out to be exactly as delicious as it looks. Chewing it feels less like eating and more like a form of dental punishment. But it keeps you alive, which is its only lonely virtue. Slowly, you are changing. The farm boy is being weathered away, replaced by something harder, leaner. Your hands are a solid mass of calluses. You learn how to move on the heaving deck, your body instinctively adjusting to the rhythm of the waves. You learn the names of the winds. You learn to tie knots that will not slip, no matter how much they are strained. You are becoming a sailor. But the purpose of this journey remains a mystery. The crew speculates in hushed tones during the long night watches. You sailing north to trade for furs with the Sami people? Are you heading for the islands of the west to Orkney or Shetland to join a chieftain there? Or is this a simple raid, a search for some unprotected monastery or village far from home? Your uncle keeps his own counsel. Okay? His silence is a blank wall against which all your questions and fears rebound. Okay? You are heading north, deeper and deeper into the wild, lawless edge of the known world, and only one man knows why. For what feels like an eternity, you sail the Northway. The rugged, familiar coastline of your homeland is a constant, comforting presence to your right. It is a lifeline, a tangible link to the world you know. Then, one gray, windswept morning, everything changes. Your uncle, standing at the tiller, gives a quiet order to adjust the sail. The ship groans in protest as it changes its angle to the wind. The prow, which has been pointing steadfastly north, now turns. It turns to the west. It points directly away from the land, away from the Northway, away from everything known, and aims for the vast, terrifying, unbroken horizon of the open ocean. A ripple of unease, palpable as the cold spray runs through the crew. Whispers are exchanged. Glances are shot at your uncle, but he remains impassive, his eyes fixed on the empty horizon. The last hazy silhouette of the mountains shrinks behind you, and then it is gone. For the first time in your life, you are surrounded by nothing but water. The scenery becomes breathtakingly simple. It's water. To the left, water. To the right, water. Ahead of you, more water. Behind you, the memory of water. Okay, you are beginning to suspect the world is just a practical joke played by a god with a very limited imagination. The psychological shift is immense. The ship, which felt like a vessel traveling along a path, now feels like a tiny, fragile shell adrift in an infinite bowl. The sun's journey across the sky is the only thing that marks the passage of time. The waves, which were just features of the coast, are now the entire landscape, an endless procession of rolling gray-green hills. The fear of being lost, of half-villa, settles into the pit of your stomach. To be sea bewildered is the sailor's ultimate nightmare. To drift aimlessly, your food and water running out, with no idea which way to turn, is a death sentence of terrifying slowness. How these sailors truly coped with the immense psychological pressure of open sea travel, the fear of the unknown, and the sheer sensory deprivation is a silent story. The sagas celebrate the brave, but they don't record the nightmares or the quiet. Knowing anxiety of being a tiny speck in an infinite, hostile world, you are all placing your lives in the hands of one man and his collection of weirdly shaped sticks and stones. It feels less like a sound navigational strategy and more like a high-stakes leap of faith. But as you watch your uncle, you begin to see it is not faith, but a science of observation, a major historical fact of your people's success. He is a master of reading the world. He uses the sun's position, noting its arc. Kate, he guides you by the steady, unmoving North Star. He watches the flight of seabirds like gannets and guillemots, knowing they must return to land to roost. Their flight paths a living compass. He even seems to read the swells of the ocean itself, knowing that the pattern of the waves can tell you if you are approaching a distant, unseen landmass. It is a complex, multi-layered art of wayfinding, a mental tapestry woven from 1,000 different threads of knowledge. You try to comprehend the sheer emptiness of it all, but your brain, accustomed to things like trees and hills, mostly just gives up and goes back to thinking about being warm and dry, a state that now seems as mythical as the land of the gods. After 2 days of seeing nothing but water, the mood on the ship has grown dark. The crew is on edge. The quiet Finn seems to have shrunk into himself. Even the boisterous Bjorn is subdued, his usual bravado replaced by a sullen watchfulness. The men are afraid. They have followed your uncle this far on trust, but this leap into the void is testing the limits of the Felix. That evening, as the sun bleeds across the western horizon, your uncle finally calls the crew together. He stands before you, his face grim in the fading light. "You are wondering where we are going," he says, his voice cutting through the tension. "You are wondering if I have led you out here to die, to become lost to the waves." He lets the words hang in the air. Some of you want silver. Some of you want glory. You want to return home with rings on your arms and stories to tell. These are good things, but they are temporary. Silver can be spent. Glory can fade. He pauses, his gaze sweeping over each of you. "Kay, I am taking you to a place where we can find something that lasts, something that can be held, something that can be passed down to our sons." Okay. He points to the west, to the darkening horizon. A few years ago, on a trading voyage to the Irish lands, a storm blew our ship far off course. For days, we were lost. We were half villa, okay? And just as we were giving up hope, we found it. Land. Not a small, rocky island, but a vast land. Green and fertile land, with forests of oak and rich soil. And it was empty. There were no kings, no chieftains, no armies, only forests and fields, waiting. The crew is silent, hanging on its every word. This is the reveal. This is the surprising reason you risked everything. It's not about raiding, it's about founding. Our home is crowded. Your uncle continues, his voice ringing with a passion you have never heard from him before. The soil is thin and the sons are many. A man can work his entire life and have nothing to show for it but a share of his brother's land. The callback to your own predicament. The very reason you stand on this deck is so sharp it takes your sharp tea. It takes your breath away. We are not going west to steal silver. We are going west to build homes. We are going to a new world to claim land for ourselves, to be the chieftains of our own lives. It is a great risk. We may find nothing but ocean. But if my memory and my skill hold true, we will find a new beginning. He looks directly at you, and you know he's speaking not just to the crew, but to the second son who stood before him in the longhouse, desperate for a chance. The fear on the ship does not disappear, but it is transformed. It is now mingled with a new, wild, and dangerous emotion. Hope. Hope, it turns out, is an excellent motivator. The work is still hard, the ship is still cramped, the food is still terrible. But now, it's agony and terrible food with a purpose. A current of shared energy, of collective ambition, electrifies the Felix. The sullen fear of being lost in the void has been replaced by a feverish, almost manic watchfulness. Every man aboard has become a lookout. Every cloud on the horizon is mistaken for a mountain. Every patch of floating seaweed is mistaken for a forest. You've all become experts in the art of enthusiastic disappointment, but the work is different now. The men pull on the ropes with a snap and a vigor that was absent before. They bail the bilge with a grim determination, not just fighting to keep the ship afloat, but fighting for the foundation of their future homes. The journey has been transformed from an escape into a pilgrimage. This personal quest of yours is a small, secret echo of a much larger historical reality. For years, men like you have been leaving the shores of Norway. The great king, Harald Fairhair, has been consolidating his power, uniting the petty kingdoms under his rule, imposing taxes and seizing lands. For a free-spirited chieftain or a second son with no inheritance, the choice was often to submit or to leave, and so they left. They sailed west into the unknown, looking for a place to live as they pleased. Whether the discovery of new lands, like Iceland, was a complete accident of storm-blown ships, or the result of deliberate exploratory voyages based on sailors' rumors and sightings, remains a chicken and egg question of history. Did the story follow the voyage, or did the voyage follow the story? All you know is that you are part of this great, unwritten exodus, a tiny boatload of dissatisfaction and hope, seeking a future that is no longer available back home. You are a historical fact in the making. You think about the stories of the first settlers of Iceland, how, when they approached the new coast, they would perform a great act of faith. They would take the Invegisiller, the high-seat pillars from their old longhouse, the very symbols of their home and authority, cast them into the sea. Where the pillars washed ashore, that is where the gods willed them to build their new farm. It was a way of letting fate choose their new home. You have no pillars to throw, no tangible piece of your old life to sacrifice to the waves. You have already left it all behind in the night. Your sacrifice was the life you abandoned, and your offering is this journey, this risk. The days on the open sea continue. 4 days become 5, then 6. The hope that had burned so brightly begins to flicker, threatened by the relentless, unchanging emptiness of the ocean. Doubt begins to creep back in. Had your uncle's memory failed him? Was the land he saw just a fever dream from a long ago storm? Was this all for nothing? Kay remains a figure of unnerving calm, constantly checking his sunstone, his wooden chart, the stars. His confidence is the only anchor you have in this endless sea. Then, on the 7th day since leaving the Northway, it happens. It is you who sees it first. You are on the dawn watch, your eyes bleary from lack of sleep, staring at the familiar gray line of the horizon. But this time, it is different. There is a smudge on the line, a darkness that is not a cloud. It's too low, too solid. You stare, your heart beginning to pound, not daring to believe. You rub your eyes and look again. It is still there. Land, you whisper, the word a dry crackle in your throat. Then you shout it, your voice filled with a desperate cracking. Hope, land. The cry electrifies the ship. The sleeping watch tumbles out from under their cloaks, everyone scrambling for a view. Their faces a mixture of disbelief and frantic longing. Your uncle strides to the prow, shielding his eyes against the rising sun. He stares in silence for a long minute. After weeks of seeing nothing but water, the sight of land is so shocking, so alien, you almost don't believe it. Stare at it, waiting for it to dissolve back into a cloud, but it stubbornly remains. It seems your uncle's questionable navigation skills have actually paid off. He turns to the crew, and, for the first time, a genuine, unguarded smile splits his weathered face. The gods are good, he says simply. That is our new world. The mood is one of pure, unadulterated joy. Bjorn lets out a roar that sends the gulls scattering into the air. Finn, the quiet farmer, has tears streaming down his face. The hours that follow are the most beautiful of your life. As you sail closer, the smudge on the horizon resolves itself into a vast green coastline. You see forested hills, high cliffs teeming with seabirds, and wide, welcoming bays. You see no signs of settlement, no smoke from cooking fires, no man-made structures. It is exactly as your uncle described, a pristine, empty, and waiting land. You instinctively reach down and touch the small, empty leather pouch at your belt, the one you had packed with such hopeful ambition. And you realize, with a clarity that feels like a revelation, that you were wrong about what you were chasing. The silver, the glory those, were just symbols. The true treasure was never something that could fit in the pouch. The true treasure is this. It's a sight of a world of possibilities. The chance to be first. The empty pouch no longer feels like a lack. It feels like a clean slate. The sun is low now, painting the sky in hues of soft orange and deep purple as your ship glides into a wide, placid fjord, a mirror image of the one you left behind. The wind has died, the great sail has been furled, and the only sound is the gentle murmur of water against the hull as you drift slowly towards a pebbled shore. The air is still and smells of damp earth, of pine, of green growing things, and of a profound, unbroken peace. This new land is quiet, its silence deep and ancient, a world that has been waiting patiently for a story to begin. The long struggle is over. The endless heaving of the gray sea, the bite of the cold wind, the gnawing fear of the empty horizon, all of it fades into a distant memory, softened by the calm of this safe harbor. You and the others of the Felix sit in silence, too weary and too overwhelmed for words, simply watching the light fade on your new home. There is no more work to be done today. There is only this gentle rocking, this quiet sense of arrival. Breathe in this clean, still air. Feel the journey's end settle into your bones, a deep and satisfying peace. The hard part is over. The new life has not yet begun. You are floating in the gentle space between a moment of perfect, sleepy tranquility. Now, just rest.